Okay, so that's the face again for the lady who asked all those good questions on Twitter. Anahi, Ayala, Iacucci, so glad you're here. You were like double booked, so you just came, so you left the other guys and came to us.
Yes.
That's awesome. You have 10 minutes.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So, I'm kind of like the weird animal here, because I work for an NGO, and we don't produce geographical data, and we don't produce software, but what we do is that we work in media development. So we work with local media with the mission of empowering communities by giving them better information. And so, specifically, I work for, this is not what it's supposed to be, but specifically, within Internews, I work with the center that is called Center for Innovation and Learning. Part of what the center does is to understand how we use new technologies, what kind of new technologies are out there, and how we can make those new technologies or new tools relevant to the provision of better information to people. And so one part of what we do is actually looking at maps and geographical data, and how this is relevant to normal people, or how do we make it relevant to normal people by combining it with other data sets, and specifically with data that we collect through the work that we do with either journalists or through crowdsourced data, if you want to call it that way, or data that is shared and kind of like exchanged through social media. So some of the projects, for example, that we do are something like this. This is Electoral.org, was a project that we have done in Ukraine where we crowdsource data about the electoral process in the country, and we map this data. We actually use this amazing guy down there software, which is Development Seeds, and we actually map the data and share and visualize the data on a map. Other projects that we do is something like this. This is Central African Republic. It's a project that we have done in collaboration with UN OCHA and local media outlets by collecting information through local journalists and share this data with UN agencies and the humanitarian organizations. And the interesting part about this project is that we knew perfectly that local populations in Central African Republic, I think that the literacy rate is around 15% in the country. And mobile or internet penetration is around 0.2% internet. And mobile, actually, it's interesting, it's 30% of the country. It's covered with the mobile network. So we knew that this was not going to be for the use of communities. But we also knew that international organizations and UN agencies are familiar with this. So if we present to them newspaper articles or SMS aggregated messages from communities, it was going to be much harder for them to use it. But if we did present them a map that they could download and print and modify, it was actually much more familiar. And the data was structured in a way that they could actually use. And this was actually a very good lesson learned from Haiti, where the crisis mapping community mapped and gathered a lot of data and put it on a Mushahidi map, and very few organizations actually used it because it was a format that they were absolutely familiar with. This is another interesting project. This is specifically very much linked to open data. It's data that we took from Open Oil, which is a great organization that creates wikis that collect information about oil industry in different countries. This is done specifically in Iraq. And as you can see, the map is pretty ugly. It's not a good map. It's supposed to be actually useful. Not pretty, not nice, not shiny. It's an ugly map because we had no money, but we had good data, and we wanted to put it up there so that people could actually use it to understand the oil industry landscape within the country. And we trained journalists on using this data for the articles that they were writing. And it was actually, for them, it was a very good way to analyze data that otherwise they were not familiar with, because we had this data in spreadsheets and wiki in PDF. It was much harder for them to use it than to just show it to them in this way. Something very similar we're still doing in Iraq, which is the media map. It's plotting all the different media outlets. Now we started with Baghdad and we're expanding to the entire country, which means that if you're a journalist and you go to Iraq and you need to actually know what is happening in different cities or in different areas, you can immediately contact the media outlet that is based there. You have the contact points of the journalist and you can talk directly to them and get information directly from them. Something like this, it looks like very simple, but it's not really out there almost anywhere. This is something that is much higher up, if you want, in the level of complexity on the data that we use and the mapping systems that we use. It's Info Amazonia. It's actually a project that is focusing on environmental data. And so it's mapping fires, deforestation, protected areas. The amount of work that went into collecting this data from the ground was incredible. It was a 5-year project in which we had to go basically municipality by municipality and ask for piece of papers and copy them or taking pictures of those pieces of paper and then get back and actually analyze and create the data and then put it up on a map. One of the things that we have done for this project, which I actually really like, is that you can choose whatever category of data you want in whatever area. You can zoom in and you can embed that map in anywhere you want. You can create a mobile app, you can embed it into your website. The idea is that a lot of NGOs that do advocacy and work in this kind of issues don't have the means or the money or the capacity to actually use this data, why it is really relevant for them. This is another very interesting project that we've done in Afghanistan, and it was mapping violence against journalists and overlaying that information with information about literacy rate and presence of military troops in those areas. Again, here the idea is that the map can actually give you a lot of insight of the correlation in between those information. If you just look at the data set by themselves, you don't really see that correlation. But if you look at the map, you can actually see it. Other interesting project in Afghanistan was mapping the media landscape. This is again very interesting, and it's done specifically with the idea that when you want to communicate with people, you need to understand what kind of information or what kind of means people use, right? If you want to communicate with someone and use SMS because it's really cool, if they don't have a mobile phone, it's not really effective. And so the idea is that you can actually zoom or go with the mouse over any of those regions, and you can see here how many people in that region actually access information using what type of means and tools. So the reason why I'm showing you all these projects, which looks very shiny, but it's also to tell you that some of those projects, and I'm not going to tell you which one, and I'm going to ask you not to tweet about it, but some of those projects were a massive failure, an outrageous waste of money and time. And the reason why they were an outrageous waste of money and time was because the buzz of producing maps and having geographical information within NGOs is really high right now. Everybody wants a map. Everybody wants to use satellite. Everybody wants to have the fancy shiny map with dots and colors and all this kind of stuff. Data visualization is great. Everybody wants to use it. The truth is that geographical data, it's not that easy to read, and it's not necessary. Sometimes you can convey a better message by not using a map, by using something else. And so for me, the point of using and accessing and having open data is when we're talking about geographical information, is that it's great and we want it and we need it, but we also need to start thinking about when it's actually relevant and who's actually using it and what's the effect of using it. Because otherwise, aside from the advocacy and the great value of having more data, we're also wasting time and money into trying to use this data just because it's really cool.
Very much need for speaking so frankly. That would be very much appreciated. I again have to switch slides, so you have to take one question. Yes, in the back.
So I'm here representing a bit crowdcrafting that I think you already know. We have been talking about this platform for allowing people doing basically analysis on GIS images. And we have now integrated, for example, Public Lab, the Map Meter solution. So basically you can actually, local NGOs in the specific places, they can actually do the volume mapping, creating their own maps. Do you see in the future more of these cases where basically the local people actually take care of doing the digital mapping, creating their own data sets and uploading them to the network and analyzing it?
Okay, so in my perspective, and I have to say it's probably a bit squeezed because I've worked for the past 3 years in Africa, is that for NGOs, first of all, if NGOs decide to go on geographical data, if it's small local NGOs, they don't have money to go on anything that it's proprietary and that they have to pay for. And it's just because they don't have it, right? It's small local organizations. So they go for whatever, it's free. And the second thing is that we always need to think about the technical barrier, right? Sometimes we think that something, it's easy for us, but it's not that easy for someone that it's coming from a completely different context where geographical information is not that easy to understand. The third one is that I see a lot in a lot of organizations, especially again small local organization, geographical data as the last step. So going to the map is the last step, but just because if they have limited resources, they use those resources for everything that comes first, which is the data gathering, the cleaning of the data, the using of the data for advocacy. And that's, I think, where we should kind of like insert ourselves a little bit more, because I think that there is a value in geographical data. We just need to be able to actually show this value and have more, being able to show that in a much better way.
Is it cool if I share some of the prices?
Of those, yes, he has done a lot of our
So
roadmaps.
I used to work at a company called Development City that did a lot of like custom consulting like this. So data.af.org, the Afghanistan violence site that you saw up there. I think that was 41,000. The media site that you saw, the Corplet map market, that was around 12,000 US. The site Info Amazonia, I want to say it was 37 for the whole project.
But it was,
But it was a big,
huge, right?
it was a site build too. And that, the mapping component of that was like probably 7 to 12, depending on what the cloud processing work we did that. The overall media development project run by USAID in Afghanistan was $25 million. These sites were incredibly important tools to use at key junctions with the group on the ground. We launched that site, the violence site in Afghanistan, to the ministry, and we had every single media organization there. So, were the sites ever used or trafficked? Like, how are these used as communication tools to help motivate much more broader efforts on multi-million-dollar projects? It's very interesting, and I think what's really positive about this is being able to build fast and light open source and stuff, see what benefits you get to, and kind of start looking at a more holistic process. Again, I'm not sure if those numbers are small or big, but
Thanks for sharing. You got to move on. Sorry. I'm really sorry.
no, it's just nobody
Nobody
talks about budget.
Sure. No, I mean, those numbers are totally fascinating. It's thanks a lot for that. Really, open data, transparency, cool stuff. Okay, but next, we got to move fast, and we got to fasten our seatbelts.